What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Learn Lightroom Live with Josh Baker. That's me. Hey, Donna. How you doing? Hey, Steven. Hey, Stacy. I hope everybody's doing good out there in YouTube land right now, wherever they may be. Hope everybody's hanging in there. Yeah. What's up, everybody? Look at this. Wearing our network is network shirt. Yeah, my favorite saying. If you've ever listened to any of our podcasts or anything, you probably heard me say that way too many times. Your network is your net worth. Yeah, we're going to be going through some. We're going to be going through and doing color grading. That's the main topic I want to talk about. If you have other Lightroom questions, please, during the stream, please throw them out there. I'm always happy to answer those as we go. Try to stump Josh. That's always a fun thing, right? See if there's something in Lightroom that I don't know. I'm always excited when I learn new things. So, yeah, throw them out there and let's just, we'll see how it goes. So we're going to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 photos. 3 of the photos were taken from the same session, but by 2 different people. Two from me, one from Steven, who's out there listening. We taught a class of precision camera on Saturday using color and light, and I thought they were really good examples on how we can create mood. So a lot of times with color grading, and really with color in general, it's not that we're trying to go for correct, although correct can be a goal. But I think sometimes our goal can be to be interesting or to be evocative, or to create a mood, or to create kind of a filmic look. I think if we can achieve that as a goal, I think that's kind of a good thing. I think if somebody came up to me and said, "Hey, Josh, your photos look very cinematic," I would take that as a compliment, right? It means that there's a lot of production went into them. They have a high value. Those are the types of things. Those are the types of compliments I love getting. If people say your photos are fine, those are not the compliments I like getting. Fine is to me is like the worst. I'd rather be positive 100 or negative 100. I don't want to be at 0. I don't want to create 0 emotion. I want to create a lot of emotion in you, whether that be a positive emotion or negative. Either one I'm fine with. I just want to create a lot of it. So yeah, are there any questions before we get started? Should I see how many people have? How are we doing? Oh, we got 6. All right. Very good. Very good. Very good. This one's always a little different for me because I have to kind of switch back and forth because I have Lightroom here and then we have all of our YouTube and streaming software on this side. So I got to kind of do a little double duty on this. So yeah, Lightroom, about a month ago now, they updated their color grading. So in Lightroom, there used to be a tool called split toning, where you could apply a color to the highlights and a color to the shadows, and you could play with that balance. Now it's called color grading, and really what they did, it's actually kind of an industry standard, which is 3 color wheels, highlights, midtones, and shadows, and you can apply colors, hues and luminosities, to that range of midtones, to the range of highlights, to the range of shadows. You can blend them and you can change the balance. And it's really an industry standard tool. Adobe Premiere uses it. Photoshop, you have access to it in there, but also like DaVinci Resolve uses the same configuration. I may be wrong here, but I'm guessing that Final Cut Pro probably uses it as well. Any color grading, any type of color correction software has used this model for a while now. So it's good to see that Lightroom, it's been implemented in Lightroom because I think it gives you more control. And I think it's a lot easier to be subtle with it. I found split toning to be not so subtle, and I find this to be a little bit more powerful, but still keep some of that subtle. So yeah. So we're just going to go through some of the photos. And again, if you have questions, I should be able to see them up in the chat comments. So throw them out there because I can't hear you. You can only hear me. And so this first one it's actually a self-portrait of one of our newest patrons. This is Miss Jenna Citrus. She does really fun stuff. She was also a guest on our podcast, makemake.podcast.com. If y'all are into listening to me talk even more, you can always listen to our podcast where we talk to artists about their business. And I think that's probably the easiest way to describe that. So Jenna sent this one to me. She goes, it's nice. How can I make it a little bit better? So This is kind of what I did with it, kind of going for like a high key look, kind of a brighter feel. And she sent me the JPEG, so I didn't have a ton of editing headroom to go with it. But this is kind of where I wanted to end up. So let's start at the beginning. This is just the file she sent. We're going to go, I'll go full screen video here. Colton, hey, what's up, bud? You have to come all the way over here. Colton says hello. This is my son. Say hello, Colton.
Hi.
There you go. He's got his broken arm and everything. There you go. What up? All right. Thanks, bud. He's also the intro to our podcast, so the first 5 seconds of every podcast is Colton. All right, so let's take a look at Jenna and what we do. So for me, something that helps me out a lot when I'm editing, as I sit in my little cave here and edit, is I like to say out loud what I do or don't like about a photo. And I think that helps me trying to find the tools to get my vision in place. Instead of just fiddling with dials, I like to say things like, this photo feels a little dull. I want to brighten it up. Well, if I say brighten it up, that usually starts, let's go full screen here for a second. So brightness to me is in the whites, right? So that's taking that last 5 to 10% of the exposure and kind of bringing it up, right? So we're just going to make it a little bit more vibrant by bringing the whites up. So plus 25, that's kind of a, I don't know, I like that range a lot. Something else, a little trick that we can do, if we notice everybody has eyeballs, or most everybody has eyeballs right here. And sometimes to color correct, I will grab my eyedropper and I will just right off the white and I'll see kind of what it gives me. Okay. So you can kind of see where we're at. Add a little blue, which I don't know if I love the blue. Add a little red. I don't know if I love it, so we'll go back to ash shot. But sometimes that's a little trick that works. You can white balance off the whites of people's eyes. Sometimes the whites off people's teeth work as well. I've also found that if you're shooting like a corporate event, they're wearing a name tag. It's usually white, and so you can use that eyedropper to white balance right off their name tag. You can just drag that dropper and click on something like the flower, and to kind of see what that gives you. Okay, so that gave us a little orange, a little red. All right, I dig it. I also think this could use a little bit more exposure overall. The flowers themselves are blown out, but for me with portraits, everything kind of centers on somebody's face. So I'm just going to take my exposure and go up from there and just kind of bring up my base exposure. I don't know, let's say 0.6, 2/3 of a stop. Now my shadows, if we look at our histogram, our shadows have kind of become our blacks, right? So the edge of the exposure is now in... instead of being at the blacks, it's now at the edge of the shadows. So let's just take those blacks and just kind of drag them back down a little bit. Let's say maybe minus 20. Then let's take our shadows and kind of bring those back. Maybe minus 10. Okay, so I think this is going to work as a high key portrait. Why not? Let's see. Which way do we like our highlights? We can either recover our highlights and keep detail. Yeah, let's try that. And let's take our white and let's go more with it. Let's take our whites and make them more white. Okay, so this is just kind of setting the base for our exposure. So you can see where we started on the left and where we are so far on the right. And this just allows us to, kind of see where we started, where we're going. Okay, let's take vibrance. Let's just boost that up to 15 for now. We'll come back. All right, so let's go ahead and come down to this color grading. Okay, so if we start from the basic, just drag on down to where it says color grading right there. Okay. And so what we can do, right, we have our mid-tone wheel, we have our shadow wheel, and we have our highlight wheel. All right. And so what we're basically doing is adding whatever color we pick into that range, right? So mid-tones are kind of the middle third, shadows are the lower third, highlights are the upper third. Okay. Blending, what blending does is how smooth of a transition between shadows and highlights we're going to get. And then balance, if we go left on balance, that's going to skew toward the shadow side of things. So whatever our shadow is, think of it like a seesaw. And our balance is going to say, you know, our shadow side is heavier. If we go to the right side of the balance, it's going to say our highlight side is heavier. So that's where we're going to go. So I think there's a little bit too much green kind of right around here. I don't know if there's a little reflection or something. So for my midtones, I'm going to go opposite, mostly opposite of green. So midtones, let's just add a little bit of red. So let's talk about some of these new controls. So we can drag anywhere in this wheel that we want and get real crazy real quick. We can also take the in color and just drag it smoothly around. Okay, you can kind of see what it's doing as far as the color changing is going for our midtones. You know, I think somewhere, I don't know. I'm not really sure where I want this to be yet. Let's say a little bit yellow. Now, the two modifiers for our movements here, if I hold down the shift key, I can select this color and then move up or down the intensity, right? Without, I literally can't move left or right. So maybe I just want to come up just a little bit up. Okay, so that's holding down my shift key. It allows me to move just on that one axis. If I hold my control key, I'll keep the intensity, but then I can change colors. Okay, and I can either click and drag on this wheel, or I can take this bigger control for even finer control. Okay, so I can take this little wheel out here, click while holding the control key, and just very smoothly, right, very smoothly create that nice effect there. So we're gonna add a little turquoise into our midtones, and we'll just kind of see where that goes. Now for the shadows, let's go even more blue. So I'm just gonna kind of start by dragging out, and then use my control. You can see the circle. So when I hold control, it just shows just that circle that we can move around in. Yeah, kind of Wheel of Fortune. And so let's kind of create like a vintage feel. Maybe let's do a vintage film. Okay, so we'll add a little magenta in there. Okay, and then for highlights, what do we think? Maybe a little orange. Okay, a little warmth, kind of a little different feel. Okay, so now we're definitely taking this into kind of a different tonality than when we started. And so blending, if I take blending from 50 to 100, it's going to smooth out the blend. If I take it into 0, it's going to make each channel very discrete. I tend to like blending a little bit higher. I like smooth transitions. And then balance is going, right, so on my highlights I have orange, on my shadows I have magenta. So if I go left on balance, it's going to go more magenta. And if I go right on balance, it's going to go more orange. Okay. I don't know. What do you think? Maybe about minus 30. That's kind of cool. Definitely has a look to it. Okay. Now, something that I would do, these flowers are very bright, and it's kind of taking away from our face here. So for me, I would bring my exposure to where the face is right. And we'll just kind of bring that all the way up. And then a radial tool is a great way to kind of do a localize, kind of dodge and burn right. So I'm going to do a radial tool, highlights. Let's go minus 50 highlight. And then where I drag that, the highlights are going to recover. And we'll actually go all the way down. Okay. Now, if you notice, I kind of lost the detail in the wallpaper, but I don't mind it so much. I care more about the expression on the face than I do on the wallpaper. Okay, so always for the portrait. Let's just add a little bit more exposure to the face. So let's just go like a third of it. Something like a third of a stop. Cool. So now this definitely has a different look and feel than where we started, right? So on the left is where we started, where the right's where we're going, right? This is kind of it feels more like a filmic or maybe like a cross-process file, or like more like a film file than it does like an actual digital file. Stacey says, what are your screen settings on the computer and how much does that affect the overall picture? I am running basically a 2.5K monitor, so I'm 2550 by 1440. So just a little bit more than HD. I'm on a 30-inch monitor though, and I'm powered by an NVIDIA 2070 Super graphic card. So, you know, I definitely would recommend calibrating your monitors with something like an X-Rite Eye display or Color Monkey or any of those types of things. I would definitely recommend it. I would also say that probably try to run native resolution. I found that when I run anything other than the native resolution of my monitor, I start getting weird things happen. And so I just think it's a lot easier to run at the native resolution of whatever monitor you're running at. But I also try to keep my brightness calibrated so it's not too bright, and that allows me to kind of see the right thing that I'm seeing. So does that answer your question, Stacy? All right, let's take a look at another file. So this is just kind of a quick introduction. Let's go. This one's a little bit more dramatic. So this was Steven's photo from our class on Saturday. This model is Miss Kayla. We've been photographing Kayla for about 10 years now. She's awesome, highly recommended. Really fun person, just a sweet gal, and we love taking her photo. You're going to see a lot of Kayla today because some of the files I'm going to use are from there as well. So this is Steven's file. This is kind of where I ended up. I'm not sure if I love that, but just to show you kind of what we can pull. Again, this is a JPEG file. So one of the advantages of shooting raw is that we're going to have a little bit more flexibility. So let's just kind of take a look at this and kind of see where we go. So obviously we've done nothing to it to start. Cool. What's up, Mark? How you doing, bud? Good to see you. We're already on the second photo, so you're not missing too much. So this is Kayla. This was shot. Now, interesting story. These little bokeh balls down here at the bottom. Can we see this little yellow? This came from wrapping a sheet of foil around the lens. And then this yellow light in her hair was firing kind of toward us. And so the foil was picking up the light coming in, right? That yellow light coming in. And because of that, we get these kind of out of focus highlights. So a fun trick if you want to add kind of bokeh balls, you can just wrap your lens in foil. Yeah, I guess you could have sent me the raw too. It's okay. It's a good. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. Okay. So for me, right when I'm first looking at it, right, the cropping's good. Everything's pretty good. It is underexposed. So the first thing that I would do is just take that exposure and let's bring that up. Right, probably a stop and a half. Okay. And that's just kind of the first one. If you want something to see interesting, right, we can take that eyedropper and drop it on the whites of her eyes, and it'll color correct her, right? It gets rid of all that blue. We went up plus 100 yellow and minus 63 red. Now, I don't necessarily like this, but just showing you what this will do, it's going to try to bring it back to neutral. And so clicking, like if we click on the red, it's going to add a bunch of green, right? See how the hair goes green? So you can get some really interesting effects by just using that eyedropper tool and clicking on things to see what you might get. So that's certainly one way to mess with your white balance. Okay. So for me, I'm just going to start by adding a stop and a half. I'm going to bring up my highlights just a little bit. Okay. Let's get those highlights a little bit brighter. And then let's take our whites. See how we kind of have some whites that are kind of peeking up here in the hair? Let's protect those and recover those and just bring those down, maybe minus 50. Cool. Now we have some shadows, especially under her chin, around her hair. Let's bring those shadows up just so we have a little more detail. You can see our histogram. We're kind of all on the left. So let's bring our shadows up so that we have more exposure and play there. Now, if you notice this, she's wearing a black shirt. It starts to become a little bit too peaked. So we'll just take those blacks and just take them down maybe minus 20. So we have kind of our basic curve here. But what I want to show you on this is how we can use our tone curves to create new colors. So normally in tone curve right here, we're used to this one where we just change the contrast, right? We could change the contrast and go crazy with it. But I don't want to use the contrast for the entire photo. What I want to use is the contrast for each color channel. So for me, this light here, this kind of golden hair is a little too yellow. I want it a little bit more orange, okay? And so what I'm going to do, we're going to use this red, green, and blue color curves, and then we can see and change the response, right? So now we can change the individual color contrasts. Okay, so in this case, I want this yellow to become more orange. So I'm going to start here in the upper quadrant and bring up my red channel. Okay, and it's going to go away from blue. Now it's going to shift the blue in her face into purple. So for the shadows, I'm going to S-curve back in. Okay, so just a nice little S-curve, a little easy S-curve, where we keep the blue in her face, but the hair has become a little bit more orange, okay? And that's just gonna, to me, that's just a little more pleasing. Yeah. And then for the green, right, we have green or red. And so it's just kind of a seesaw, right? Do we want to go more green? Do we want to go more red? To me, a little bit more red. We're going to go air to the side of red in the highlights and just kind of flatten it back out. So we're just kind of dipping in a little bit here. All right. Cool. Yeah, starting to feel a little more orangey. And then the blues, I really want to bring the blues up a whole bunch. I really like that blue, red, pink kind of combo. So I'm going to bring up the blues and the shadows and then give it a little color contrast going away from that in the highlights. Okay. All right. So you can see where we started, where we ended up, right? Our hair, look at the hair. It went from yellow on this side to now we're very kind of orangish, reddish on that side. Now, if I really wanted to get creative, I could have also gone to the hue, right? And drag my little Doppler there. And I could change the color individually if I wanted to, right? I can shift it from one to the other. Okay. And I just do that by clicking on the button to the left of hue. It's just like the eyedropper. It's just a mini eyedropper. I'm going to click and I can shift in, left or right on each color hue. If I double click the word hue, it resets all my values. If I double click just the word orange, it'll reset just that one that I changed, right? So if I change all of these, okay, and I want to just reset one, I just double click it. If I want to reset all of these values, just double click the word hue and it resets all the values. Awesome. All right. So I kind of have a basic set now, and now I can come into color grading after I've played with my color curves, right? So I've changed all my tone curves, and now I can come back into my color grading, and now I can shift again. So maybe for my shadows, I want to go blue again.
Not a spider jockey. No,
Colton.
Not a spider jockey. Anything but a spider jockey.
All right, so for my shadows, I'm going to go nice and blue, just kind of keep up with all that. For my midtones, I don't know, let's see, kind of a yellow. I like that. And then for our highlights, we can go more magenta. Okay, now I use the shift key, right, to determine how much magenta I want to add. In this case, just a little bit, okay? And then for my midtones, hold shift again, and I can just kind of come in or out just to see how much. So just a little bit, maybe a little more orange. Yeah. And then shadows, yeah, we can kind of play there. And then again, balance, right? We can kind of go left or right. I think a little bit on the right side this time. And then blending, we'll go ahead and crank that up. So if you see kind of where we were, right, to begin with, to where we ended up, right? Very different photo, very different feel. To me, this kind of has that feel of like a Saturday Night Live, right, intro screen. You know how they do those kind of color. So this was a multi-gelled setup, which can be tricky because every direction you shift, you're going into the other direction. So let's look at a more, yeah. So this photo, only one of my lights fired, and I always find it interesting. Sometimes I set up all these lights and do all these things, and then one light fires, and it actually is the photo that I like instead of all the work that I put into setting up, 3, 4, 5 lights. So this photo is actually a raw file. And so let's kind of see where we can go. Now, first straight away, the thing that I notice here is that I don't like this crop. So the first thing I'm going to do, just because it annoys me, is change my crop. Boo. There we go. Okay, now I like that better. Now, the second thing I want to point out, just again, I know I point this out like in every video that I do, but I think it's very important. I've also been recently shooting with a Canon R6, and this issue is even more important for some reason on this camera. This one was shot with my 5D4, and so I'm using a preset that I created called 5D4 Daylight, where I shot against an X-Rite color checker passport. But I think it's so important to calibrate not only your screen, but also your cameras. So shoot them against a color checker, and then use that X-Rite software to create your own raw color profiles. For me, it makes a huge difference. So watch this is what the Adobe color, which is kind of the one it defaults to, look how red this is. Just off the bat, it's very red, okay? And I've done nothing else to it. And as I switch to my own generated profile, watch how it becomes a little bit, right? It's a little bit oranger, less red, but also watch the shadows, especially on her cheek right here. They're almost black just under her right eye. Watch when I shift into 5D4 Daylight, which is the one I created, and it gives me better dynamic range. So if you're looking to get more dynamic range out of your cameras, calibrate your cameras. I just trust me on this from somebody who shoots a lot of photos all the time. It makes a huge difference. It's going to make your workflow faster because you don't have to edit as much because the files are already at a better starting point. Okay. Ginther, great question. Should you color check each shoot? No. You know, I just want to build a profile. Basically, I have 2 profiles for every camera. So I have a daylight response and I have a tungsten light response. And there's not too much difference that I've noticed between those. A little bit, but not too much. But, you know, for every camera, you know, you want to build a good raw color profile for each one. Now, what I do, though, with that color checker, especially if I'm doing a shoot where color balance really matters, is I use the gray card in it. And I take a shot with it, you know, in the middle of the set. And then I can use that white balance. So instead of white balancing off maybe off her eyes or her teeth or a name card, I white balance off the gray card somewhere in the shoot. Especially some of the rooms we shoot in, like the Blanton Museum, the atrium is blue, and as the light falls, it gets bluer and oranger. It really makes a difference, and it changes throughout the shoot. You know, if we're shooting a food or products where it needs to have very accurate colors, I will often show the color target in one of the photos so that if it's going to like a web designer or if it's going to maybe like a magazine file, that they have that file as a reference if they need to color balance for another color profile. So like, you know, we're not shooting, right? We're shooting RGB. So if we know we're sending it to print, I like to include that color checker in one of the frames when I deliver files to commercial clients, because if they're transmitting in CMYK, especially, right, that color rendition changes, and so we want to have that for them just as a courtesy, so that if they need to color balance against whatever process they're doing, they have that file. Yeah, and Steven, I recommend X-Rite makes a color checker Passport 2 and iWrite display combo. So you can get them together and you save some money. And that's the one I recommend. And since we're both shooting with an R6, it makes a big difference on the R6. I'll show you an example here in a second of for whatever reason, it just responds really well. I'm getting completely different colors with my R6, with the profiles that I created versus what kind of Adobe is trying to create for it. And I don't know if it's just because it's a new camera and their profiles aren't very good. I'm not sure, but let's go ahead and show you. Okay, so this is a family photo shoot that we did on Sunday. Yeah, so this is the Adobe color. This was shot with a Canon R6 mirrorless camera, and this is the Adobe color. It's very dull. It's very kind of muddy and washed out. And then if you see, I have one called R6 Daylight. And if I switch to that, like the colors are just better. Ooh, we're getting a little laggy. All right, so again, Adobe, let's go to Adobe Standard. So this is what Adobe tries to do for this camera, and it's very, very muddy, very not clear. And so again, I'll switch from that just so you can see to the Daylight. Right, and it's so much more saturated. There's more dynamic range. There's more vibrance. Like, to me, that makes a huge, huge difference. And that gives me a better starting spot for all of my files. So I don't have to move my sliders as much, and it keeps my image fidelity higher. Okay, it keeps my image fidelity higher because I don't have to push the file as much, because the profile is the first step that Lightroom takes in managing the colors. Okay, so this is building our house on solid rock. All right. You know, I actually shoot sRGB, which is kind of counterintuitive, but most applications don't read Adobe. Adobe is a bigger color definition. Think of it like a dictionary, right? It's a bigger dictionary. It has more words in it. But all of the software doesn't utilize that. And so especially web browsers don't use it. And so we can get some really funky shifts in color. And printers, you know, they're even more limited than what our screens are. So for me, I just keep everything sRGB to keep it nice and smooth, where I don't have to worry about any color shifts or if the software is going to read Adobe RGB or not. All right. How we doing out there in YouTube land? Everything still going okay? All right. Good questions, y'all. Good questions. Good questions. All right. So let's just process this one. We're already here. Might as well. Okay. So for me, now this shot was kind of tricky. So this shoot was kind of tricky. This was a family shoot. We were shooting at Secret Theater, and this bus that we were shooting in, it's an old school bus with all this cool furniture in it. It's very short. I couldn't stand straight up in it, and it had kind of green walls. And all I did was take my flash and just bounce it into the ceiling and just bounce. So the bounce light is kind of green. And then this is right about noon. And so the outside light is very kind of orangey. So we have very orange light outside and very green light inside. I should have gelled my light to match the outside. Okay, let's just say that now. I should have gelled my light to match my outside source. But we were in a hurry and I didn't think about it till later. And so I was shooting in a hurry. And it just, I didn't do it. So I have this green bounce light. Green is not the color you want on people's skin generally. Okay. We don't generally want green on people's skin. It just, they make them look like aliens or sick or, that's why I hate fluorescent lights. So the first thing we can obviously tell is this is underexposed. What's up, Emily? How you doing, girl? So if we just take our exposure again, we're just going to boost that up. And I'm looking kind of right along Ashley's cheek right here. And that's kind of my basis for how bright I can take it. And so for me, maybe a stop and a tenth. And that's about where I can be here. Okay. Again, let me just show you the difference between Adobe Color. Ugh, look at that. Ugh. Adobe Standard. Ugh, look how washed out that is. And now look at it when it's the profile that I built. Okay. Is that enough proof that that's what you should do to get the best out of your files? Yeah. Okay. So in this case, I am going to, I'm going to try to get some white balance. Now, her mother here is wearing a white shirt. So I'm just going to zoom in there and I'm just going to use my eyedropper and let's just white balance right off there. It didn't change much. All right. That's a little bit better. It's a little, that's better. Okay. All right. So let's just add a little contrast. Now, maybe 15. Now, the other thing that's bothering me in this file is that my flash was just to my left, and I'm just bouncing it against, and I'm just bouncing it straight up into the ceiling. So this whole area from the top left kind of down to the feet down here is too bright. Okay. You can tell that it was lit. So this is where I would take a gradient filter and I'm just going to do -1 and drag it from the bottom left kind of up. All right. And that kind of gets rid of that flash signature on the left. And then the other thing I'm going to do, I need to match these faces. So the husband and the mother's face are a little bit duller than this. So let's just kind of create some little dodge and burns, right? So let's go like half a stop. Just draw some happy little circles. We'll go a little Bob Ross here, just some happy little circles, okay? And now we're kind of matching all of our faces exposure, right? We want to keep our faces tonality. So just a little dodge and burn, basically, just a little half stop in there to keep those faces more level, okay? All right, so we've kind of got our white balance. I'm not going to worry about highlights or any of that stuff just now. Let's go ahead and come down to the color grading because that's what y'all are here for, right? Let's make this look like a fun vintage something. All right, so we already have a lot of red in here. For our midtones, I'm actually going to add a little green, which is strange for me. But I kind of just want to keep that feel of this color back here. Okay, this color in the bus. We're going to add a little here, and everything's a little too orange in there. So we're just going to add a little green. For our highlights, let's go a little blue. Okay, that's a little too much. Again, we want to keep it nice and subtle. Maybe a little more light blue. Cool. And then for our shadows, let's go ahead and get that deep red. Yeah. Okay. Again, we want this to kind of feel like an old-timey photo, right? We want to get that vintage look. And I'm going to err on the side of my highlights just a little bit. Okay. Just a little bit. Plus 20. And let's go ahead and blend that all in. Okay. Cool. Okay. So again, I haven't done, right? I'm barely in each channel, right? For each channel, I'm not hugely in any one category. But I think it's important to just be able to be subtle with it, right? We don't want to get crazy. So let's take a look at the Y and kind of see where we started, where we ended up. Yeah, right. Just a very different feel. Okay. Very different feel. Y'all see that? Ooh. So from where we started on the left to where we are on the right. All right. All right, let's do one more file while we have y'all here. Let's take a look at, I'll let y'all do a vote. Do y'all want to do Kayla in orange or Kayla in blue? Kayla in orange or Kayla in blue? Is it getting kind of laggy? Blue, okay. One vote for blue. Who else? Anybody else has a vote? The blue is very tricky. The blue and orange. Oh, man. All right, we need a tiebreaker. Orange. Uh-oh, we got two orange. Orange. Hey, Patty, I didn't even see you on here. All right, it's 3-1. 10 more seconds. Get those comments in. Orange, 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 orange. Okay, good. That's a much easier one. That blue one, man, it took me like 30 minutes before I got it just right because the colors between orange and blue were really tough. So everybody says orange. All right, that's everybody. All right, let's take a look at orange. All right, so this is Kayla. I love this portrait. She's just giving me a lot of energy, right, with this photo. Hey, Patty, I see you out there. And I really love, like, her eyes are so expressive. There's a lot of energy in this photo, so we really want to bring it out. Okay. So, right, my profile's the correct one. We're in a raw. I'm not going to mess with my as shot, my white balance, you know, maybe just 48 and 0. Just to kind of zero it everything out. Okay. Now, the first thing is, I would say, is that it's a little underexposed. Not a lot, but a little bit. So let's just start with our exposure. And part of the reason that I start with the exposure is that, especially when we get to color grading, we're changing our midtones, highlights, and shadows. So we need to make sure our exposure is right first, because it will change the color responses. So if the color is in the shadows, it's going to get a different curve than if that color is in the highlights. So we need to make sure that our colors are right first and then do color, because that's going to change kind of our workflow. Okay. I know they went easy on me. I appreciate it. I'm going to give them a bonus tip though. I'm going to show them something else with this one. All right. Now this was lit with a very hard light reflector. It was a long throw with a grid on it. So very narrow, tight beam with kind of a yellowish orange gel on it. Okay, so you know, we kind of need about that much exposure. I'm going to take the highlights down just a little bit. This kind of ridge line on her nose, and then some of this on her cheek, that's just a little hot. So I'm going to bring that down with, you know, maybe minus 20 highlights. But it left it a little dull, and so I'm going to take my whites and kind of bring that back up. Maybe like plus 15. Okay, let's take the shadows right here. So that right cheek, right, those are shadows, and we're just going to bring those up some. Okay, maybe like plus 30. But I don't necessarily want to make this like a super contrasty photo. The light is doing so much work already. And maybe a little bit more in the shadows. The light is doing so much work to make it super contrasty that with my settings, I really don't have to, because there's already so much going in there. In fact, let's go minus contrast. Let's go minus 10 contrast. It's just going to keep that softness going. Okay. For blacks, if you can see, right, I'm already in my histogram, I'm already at black. So I don't need, right, I'm already black under her ear. And whites, I'm almost there, right? So I already have kind of a full histogram there. So let's just keep it like that. For vibrance, let's go ahead and turn this up to 25. We'll make this nice and vibranty. Okay. Now I'm going to do just a little bit with the color curves, the tone curves here, just to kind of see this red. Yeah, I want to pull a little bit of that red out, just a little bit of that red out. Okay. Okay, because that I want a little bit more blue in here. You know, you can kind of see blue. There's not really any blue in there. We can make it more yellow, though. So just a little bit. I'm doing very small adjustments here. All right, that's good. All right, so let's go ahead and go to color grading now. So for this one, I kind of want it to feel like a movie poster, maybe like an HBO show. That's kind of what I'm thinking. And so I'm just going to bring out my just a little bit there. And I'm going to grab this top dot. Ooh, I kind of like that already, kind of in the greens. Okay, that's good. I'm just going to grab that dot, just drag it out just a little bit. I don't want to get too far out of my wheels. Just a little bit kind of green-yellow. But then for my shadows, let's get shadows in the blues. I kind of always like blue shadows. Just a little bit. And then shift key, right? I can play with that tonality, how much it gets. All right, so I like using the shift as just a way to really microscopically adjust how much gets added in. Okay. So that's what that shift key does. It makes a straight line. You can kind of run up and down that line. Control, right, keeps our intensity. Then we can slightly move our colors. Cool. Okay. Then blend. I want a nice blend. Keep it kind of cool. And then balance. You know, sometimes it's just C, right? In this case, I think balance to the right is better. You know, for a lot of what I do with Lightroom, I pull a slider out to maybe 50 to see what it does. It's like, oh, that's good. And then I'll bring it back. So I usually go out to the limit of what I think looks good and then bring it back, right? We want to keep things subtle. We don't want to be, I don't want this to scream, this photo was edited, right? We want to kind of hide our tracks. And so far, if you look where, well, that's already the adjustment. All right, but we're going to give you all a bonus. So something else we can do is our luminance here. I use luminance quite a bit. And what this allows me to do is use my little eyedropper again, right? Just to the left of the word luminance, we have a little eyedropper. And I can go and like take her cheek right here and just bring that up. And we can just brighten just this color, okay? We could take the red in her hair and just brighten that color, okay? I use this quite a bit, okay? Maybe this green back here, we can kind of bring down a little bit, that green, right? Okay. Very good so far. Okay. Now let's get into a little portrait retouching and whatnot. So eyes nice and focused. That one is right there. And we're just going to take a little dodge and burn. I don't know, maybe like 0.3. Do not overdo your eyes. Please don't make your eyes look like they could shoot lasers. I see a lot of people that, you know, like their backlit photos and their eyes look like they're a mutant. So please don't do that. Just a little bit of bringing it out. You know, just a little 0.3. Okay. Okay. It's just that little bit. Okay. It still looks natural without it going crazy. Okay. Something else I might do is just to kind of all over her face, keeping the tonality everywhere else. Just a 0.3, just a little subtle, right? Just that little bit of subtle brightening. It keeps everything else in place. And just that little smooth addition. Okay. So what are some things y'all see wrong with this photo? What are some things that y'all see that you don't like? I can tell you some, but what are some things that y'all see that y'all don't like in this photo? There's some little things, not big things, but little things. Kind of curious what y'all type now. I should have asked those questions I don't know the answer to, right? And what do they say? Never, never ask a question you don't know the answer to. So for me, I'll kind of show you. We can show some of the new zooms, right? So we have a new zoom in Lightroom. One of them is the scrub zoom. So if I hold Shift and then click my mouse and drag left, right? See all of this? Yeah, no arms. I don't mind the arms. But if I hold Shift and then click my mouse, I can scrub zoom. Ooh, kind of cool. Okay, that's one. And if we hold Control, we can draw a box. Okay, and it zooms into there, right? So I would want to take care of like this little line across her forehead here. That a little bit of acne there, a little bit of acne there, a little bit of acne there. Okay. There's also this hair right here bothers me because it's bright, and I want it going to the face. All right, so I'm going to try something. I don't know if this is going to crash everything. All right, so I'll show you what I did. I went, and again, this may crash everything. I'm so sorry if it does. We're going to edit this in Photoshop 2021. Okay, so one of the cool things about doing everything in the Adobe ecosystem, right? I can go from Lightroom to Photoshop, and then it brings it back into Lightroom. That's really nice. So let's just do some quick fix-ups, and I'll show you kind of what I did here. Bonus photos, bonus software. All right. So first thing I'm going to do, Control J to duplicate the layer that I'm on. That way, if I make an error, I don't have to live with it. Alt and scroll wheel, and I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. Okay. Go to my spot healing brush tool. I'm going to take care of that. I'm going to take care of that. Take care of that. And then we have these lines going across. So I'm going to do a little bit in the shadows, and then all the way across her forehead, running across there. A little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit there. So just kind of cleaning up, right? Spot healing brush, right there. And then scroll down. That little hair just bothers me for some reason. I don't know why, but it does. It's in focus and it was bright. So any kind of distracting. I don't mind that the hair is wild, but I don't like it when it catches light because then it takes away from where I want your eyes to go. Okay. Control minus. Ooh, that one right there too. Control minus. All right, that's looking better. Looking better. Okay. Maybe clean up that hair right there. Clean up that hair right there. Now, my real big secret trick is I use a plugin called PortraitPro. And so I was very mean to her with this lighting. I will tell you that now. This lighting, ooh, right there on that tip of the nose, get rid of that. This lighting was very, look at the angle, right? It's a hard, small light. Yeah, I got it. And it's just raking right across her face. And it's a very hard light. It's silver reflector with a grid. What are you saying, and shadow in corner of eye, nose. We'll get there. All right, so I'm gonna hit Control J because we're gonna do something else to it. So we're gonna go to Filter, Anthropics PortraitPro. Now this is really where, let's see how well this computer hangs up with everything. All right. So this is how I speed edit all of my, yeah. So we just have to draw the shape of what we're doing. So in this case, I start with the eyebrows, get those right, kind of get our face outline right. Okay, good. Scroll in. Now the eyes probably aren't right. Now that's pretty close. Yeah, almost. Okay, so we just go through and kind of change the shape of everything. Now it looks good. Let's see how the lips. Nope, lips aren't right. And what this is going to allow us to do is use the geometry that we're tracing here to create specific masks that the software is going to use to change things for the better. Again, use with care. You can go very crazy with this stuff. A little bit goes a long way. And what we're going to have is all these controls. So I can do things like change the shape of her face. right? Just a little bit. You don't want it to look like not her, okay? Anything that the lens could do, I feel like I can do, right? Just a little bit of heads forward right there. There we go. Okay, now you kind of see which way we're going. Cool. We can go to skin smoothing. All right, so view, edit skin mask. Cut back a little bit. Don't need it on the eyes. Ooh. All right. So then we can just make it a little nicer, because I was really mean to her with my lighting, so I feel like I need to take care of her a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, the plugin is. They just came out with a new version. I'm trying to decide if I need to go crazy and upgrade to the next one or not. All right, but you know what? We were mean in how we lit her, so we're gonna be nice in how we process her. Okay. Right, and this is all for effect, right? Like where do I want to get to with it? Okay. And I want to get to like this like Pretty Little Lies, like yeah. So for skin lighting, right, I'm kind of mimicking my light source. Okay. Yeah, there we go. A little bit of contrast, a little bit of modeling, and bring out the cheekbones. Right kick, let's bring that up a little bit. Cool. We can go to the eyes. Again, do not go crazy with eyes. Right, we can go very crazy, okay? Please don't go crazy, okay? We do not want laser eyes here. No laser eyes. It's in focus. Her right eye, the eye closest to me, is dead in focus. Okay, so we're just going to take it and just bring it nice and back, okay? That's even still a little too much. Maybe like 15, just a little bit, okay? And then lips. Let's bring that lipstick back in, because all the things I did kind of took away her lips.
No.
Sweet. All right. So just a quick, we kind of smoothed out the skin, added some contrast from the lighting, boosted the eyes just a little bit, not enough to get crazy, and kind of remove some of the shine from everything. Okay. So Mark, we're in a Photoshop plugin called PortraitPro. It's made by a company called Anthropics, and it's great. I don't do this for every photo, but on a photo like this that I just really love, I think it kind of take it to the next level. It was good where it started, but I think this is just feels a little bit different. And this is kind of the order of operations, right? I start with exposure, I do color, I take it into Photoshop, and I finish off anything I need to do, right? So exposure is always first, color second, and then any final retouches I'll do at the end. Okay. Oh, that the lens can focus? Is that a joke on me having an ADD brain? I got it. That's funny. Ha ha ha. All right, that hair back there still bother me. So just a little spot healing brush. Take care of that hair. All right, so this is where we ended up. Here was the layer before that, okay? Where we just cleaned some things up, and then here's where we started. Look at like the tip of the nose, some of the acne, the lines on the forehead, the little acne under her lips, right? So we cleaned it up, and then we softened everything up. Okay, cool. Go ahead and close that, save that, and it's going to bring it all back into Lightroom. Yeah, PEMDAS, all you photography engineer nerds. I see y'all. All right, so if we want to get like a really big before and after, right, we'll hit the letter Y. Ooh, where's our before and after? Yeah. So this is a version I did earlier, and this is the version we just did now. Okay, kind of cool, right? That looks interesting. Can we say it looks interesting? I'll take interesting over correct. Okay, I'll take interesting over correct. I sent these files to Kayla, and she loved them. Okay, clients always love them. And that's always our goal, right? We want to love them, and we want our clients to love them. So yeah, that was just a little kind of sneak preview at Anthropics PortraitPro. I try not to go crazy with it. I think too many people go too far with it. it's very easy to go too far with Anthropics PortraitPro. It's very easy, and it's not just PortraitPro. It's very easy in Lightroom to go too far. It's very easy in Photoshop to go too far, where the skin no longer looks real, where the skin doesn't look, it looks like a doll. I think this still has texture in it, right? If we're looking at this, well, I took it off the screen, but in our picture of Kayla, the skin still looked like it had texture. It still looked like it was real skin, but maybe just, right, with a great makeup artist, right, on a good day. Models especially they have a hard time maintaining good skin because so many people apply makeup to them that it gets kind of wonky from time to time. Most models I know don't have great skin because of how many different types of makeup get put on their face. So it's very hard for them to maintain that. Are there questions for today? Are there things? Now, I do have a question for y'all where I can see it again. Looks like someone HBO. That's what I was going for, Patty. That's exactly what I was going for. Thank you, right? Pretty Little Lies, right? Doesn't she look like a young Nicole Kidman? I know. That's what I'm saying. So we can either do Josh Says Mean Things next week, or we can do it the week after Thanksgiving. What would y'all rather do? The Tuesday before Thanksgiving or the Tuesday after Thanksgiving? I'm going to give y'all the choice on that. Throw that in the comments as well. Also, if y'all like the shirt that I'm wearing, take a look. We made some new designs. So yeah, I'm wearing one of the new ones. This is the network equals net worth that gets said all the time on our podcast. But yeah, I can't decide if I want to do Josh Says Mean Things next week or the week after. I kind of feel like I've been slacking on it a little bit. So let me know what y'all think. Send me a message. I think maybe the week before, because nobody's going to send me files during the week of Thanksgiving because everybody's going to be bored. Yeah, all right. Emily, I agree with that too, right? Emily says week after Thanksgiving gives everyone time to play around with Thanksgiving activity photos. Agreed, but then nobody's going to actually send them to me because everybody's going to get fat with turkey. So, I don't know. I haven't decided. Somebody convinced me one way or the other. Okay, all right. We have 2 votes for after. All right, that'll keep up with our normal schedule. That's fine. That's fine. All right, we'll just keep it on our normal schedule. So yeah, so that'll be, start getting y'all's photos together so you have something to send me for Josh Says Mean Things. We'll do that the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. I will just be coming back from the desert, so maybe I'll have something cool too. I think I'm gonna rent that crazy Canon RF 800 f11 weirdo lens and just see what it does. So we may have some super telephoto to share with y'all. I don't know. Just to mix things up. See, y'all are making it hard for me to decide. I can't decide today. Can't decide. Also today, had one of my nightmares come true. I was doing a headshot session and couldn't find my light trigger. Looked all over, ran back home from the client, came back home, thought I left it here. No, it was in my bag, hiding the whole time, which is one of my nightmares, that I can't find my gear, or I'd leave a piece of gear at home during a commercial shoot. So I got to experience one of my nightmares today. So that was fun. I know. It was right there. It was right exactly where it was supposed to be. I just didn't see it for like 20 minutes. I don't know what was going on. Not very fun there. So, all right. Any other questions for Lightroom today? Anything else we got? Otherwise, I'm just going to dance on out of here. Look at that. I'm going to dance for you. I'm going to dance for you. Colton, you going to dance with me? Colton's going to dance with me. Colton's going to dance with me.
I can.
Yeah. Colton's going to dance with me. Come here, Colton. Right there. There you go. Dance with me, Colton. Dance with me, Colton. Dance, 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 dance. All right. All right, guys. Well, if I don't see y'all, have a happy Thanksgiving. If I don't see y'all before then, I hope everybody has a healthy, safe Thanksgiving. I know the world's kind of crazy right now, so he'll be on there in a second. But I hope you have a safe Thanksgiving. Please come back to us. We like y'all too much not to see y'all again. And if y'all have any Lightroom questions, please send them my way. Otherwise, get your photos ready for Josh Says Mean Things. All right, y'all. Y'all have a good night. Talk to y'all soon.